Module 12, Building Ethical Organizations. Why is it important that our organizations behave in an ethical manner? Well, first of all, when we behave immorally, it not only hurts our reputation, our company's reputation, but it can damage the reputation of the entire field that we represent. In the early 1990s, when Enron and World.com all collapsed due to improper accounting practices, the company that did their accounting was a company called Arthur Andersen. Arthur Andersen not only resulted in a loss of their own reputation, but it damaged the reputation of all accounting firms throughout the United States. Whenever we behave immorally, our customers sometimes will not want to buy our products anymore, so that results in a loss of revenue. And invariably, when companies behave immorally, Congress increases the regulation of the entire industry. If you think about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill out in the Gulf of Mexico several years ago, Congress immediately started clamping down on all offshore drilling. Immoral behavior can also result in civil or criminal lawsuits. And whenever these things happen, it costs a lot of money for our company to defend itself from these lawsuits, even if we're in the right. But not only does it cost us to have to defend ourselves, but increased regulation, loss of reputation, all of these expenses typically get passed on to the consumer. Rarely does the company that is acting in an immoral manner suffer from their behaviors. What do we mean by organizational culture? Well, culture is a pattern of shared basic assumptions that are learned by a group as it solves its problems of external adaptation and internal integration that's worked well enough that we consider them valid ways to act and therefore valid things to be taught to new members or new employees as the correct way to behave. Edgar Schein is the father of organizational culture, and a lot of what we know today about creating an ethical culture in an organization is a result of Edgar Schein's work. If a company is considered to be ethically decoupled, it means that they are not connected to the ethics of their industry, then they often see ethics as a means to an end. In other words, they behave in an ethical manner only because it helps them in the end, helps them be profitable, or helps them do what they want to accomplish. Companies that are ethically decoupled, they comply with the legal requirements, but not often with the ethical requirements of their field. If you look at their organizational values, they probably have some really nice organizational values written on their webpage, but their behaviors are inconsistent with these organizational values. An example of this is Enron. Enron had respect and integrity as two of their corporate values, but their behavior in the industry was very much inconsistent with those values. Ethically decoupled companies are also driven by the bottom line, profits in other words. So companies like Enron in the 1990s and Lehman Brothers and other banks in the mid-2000s were all driven by profits. And as a result, the average person suffered as a result of those companies' drive for profits. The Veterans Administration gave bonuses to directors that could reduce the wait times for veterans to get into VA hospitals for treatment, and this was just a few years ago. But instead of actually reducing wait times, the VA directors kept a fake set of books that showed that wait times were reduced when really they weren't. And so money can drive people to behave unethically. These types of companies also have inconsistent reward structures. In other words, rewarding good behavior, they reward people that are profitable. If you look at a lot of car dealerships, especially used car dealerships, their reward structures are not necessarily about helping you find the right car. They're rewarded based on how many cars they sell. So their incentive is to sell cars, not necessarily to help you find the right car that you need. These types of companies invest very little in building a positive ethical culture. On the other hand, companies that are called ethically transformed companies seek ethics as an end in itself. They want part of their reputation to be that they are an ethical company. They not only meet, but they exceed the ethical requirements of their industry, and their actions reflect their collective values. You can look at their values, you can listen to the values that they promote and espouse, and their behaviors match those values. They are driven by their mission and their values. They also reward moral behavior. Their reward system is set up in such a way that people are rewarded for doing the right thing, which you hope in turn will eventually lead to profits. But doing the right thing is the most important thing. What they do is they invest a lot in creating an ethical culture. If you look at these companies, they deal quickly with unethical behaviors, and they also train their people in what the expected ways of behavior are and the expected ways of serving their customers, and this helps create an ethical culture. A company that exceeds its ethical requirements would be a company like Hobby Lobby. When they have their factories in foreign countries, they make sure that they always pay the full taxes in these foreign countries to prevent the appearance of being unethical. Because in some of the countries where they do their manufacturing, it's often expected that if you grease the right wheels, you don't have to pay your full taxes. And many companies don't do that. But Hobby Lobby always tries to be ethical, and they don't even want to have the appearance of being unethical. What makes an ethical culture? How do you create it? Well, having a set of core values that are positive in nature, that are the kind of desirable, virtuous values that serve to guide us is one thing that these companies do. Now, if you look at Enron's core value statement from their webpage, all of their core values were positive, but they didn't use those values as their guiding principles. A mission statement identifies why that organization exists. It describes what they do. Also, companies that have a good ethical culture all have a code of ethics. Now, codes of ethics identify things like what is a conflict of interest? What records do we have to keep? How is information handled? Some information needs to be handled confidentially, while other information should be shared as soon as we know about it. It describes the outside relationships that we have with our suppliers or our vendors and our regulators. Now, all publicly traded companies must have a code of ethics as of the late 2000s, 2008, 2009. When the banking industry almost collapsed because of their unethical behavior, Congress created a new law called the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which says that all publicly traded companies, so those are companies that are traded on the New York Stock Exchange, must have a code of ethics. Now, privately traded companies do not necessarily have to have codes of ethics, but if you look at the really good companies like Hobby Lobby, like Chick-fil-A, these companies all do have good codes of ethics. Another thing that creates an ethical culture is structure. And what we mean by structure is how the company is organized. Everyone knows who they report to. It creates a line of authority so that I know that I report to my boss immediately above me, but if he can't solve my problem or refuses to, I know who to go to next. It creates a line of authority, lines of accountability. It describes who makes decisions for what things, and it sets up the correct kind of reward system that rewards ethical behavior. So structure is very critical to helping create an ethical culture in an organization. Let's talk about some companies and compare and contrast some companies on these particular parts. When we look at core values, and you look at a company like Starbucks, their values state that they want to produce a quality product. Their partners are important, their employees. They want their employees to be engaged with customers and their stores to be a haven for people where people can relax and enjoy their product, and they want to be part of their community. And if you go into a Starbucks, you're greeted by the partners. Starbucks treats their partners very well. They're paid well. They are even part-time partners are given insurance, and they're supported in many ways. Starbucks will even pay for a partner's college expenses if they go to a certain online college. Starbucks is also very active in the community, supporting a lot of charitable causes. If you look at a company like Enron, for example, though, their core values were communication, respect, integrity, and excellence. And about the only thing they were excellent at was creating false books that made them look profitable when in essence they really were not profitable. And eventually this kind of behavior just can't support itself. You can't keep cooking the books and even give the appearance of remaining profitable for very long. And so they really did lack integrity or respect for other people or respect even for the industry. The mission statement. Starbucks' mission is to inspire and nurture the human spirit, one person, one cup, in one neighborhood at a time. Enron, I couldn't find what their mission statement was. They didn't have a published mission statement. And if you remember, ethically transformed companies are driven by their core values and their mission. Codes of ethics. You can go to Starbucks website and you can find their business ethics and compliance program, and you can read all about it, even though you're not an employee. It's open to the public. And you can see that their business and ethics and compliance program supports and protects the mission and the values, and that they frequently communicate what it means to be an ethical person and an ethical partner. It's always communicated to their employees and their vendors. Enron had a 64-page booklet that was distributed to employees when they were first hired at Enron. There was no known enforcement department. There was no evidence that ethics was ever really discussed or communicated beyond the distribution of this ethics booklet that was handed out when you were a new employee. In fact, the board of directors suspended the company's ethics policies to allow the chief financial officer, Andrew Fastow, to operate an illegal partnership because that illegal partnership was bringing in money into Enron. So even the board of directors was guilty of unethical behavior by suspending the company's ethics policies. Structure. So if you look at Starbucks and you look at their online at their system, they actually have a system for reporting ethical issues. If you're a partner in the local College Station Starbucks, you know if you see unethical behavior happening in your business, you know how to report it, who you report it to, what has to be done. Starbucks is very open about its communications regarding company business. They post the minutes to their board meetings. They openly discuss in forums where anything that they are talking about changing or thinking about. They reward behavior that supports the mission and values of their organization. And this is all very transparent on their website. Enron lacked an ethics accountability system. They had no office or no system for reporting unethical behavior. In fact, close to the end, before Enron collapsed, one of their employees actually did try to report things to the CEO, but he pretty well ignored what was going on. Many insiders were aware of the fraudulent accounting practices, yet they never said anything. They never went to regulators or did anything about it. The only thing that was rewarded at Enron was who could maximize the share values and make the prices of our stocks go up. In summary, our values really drive our behaviors, but they have to be values that we believe in. They are our guiding principles. Ethically transformed companies create and follow guidelines to help address specific moral dilemmas or ethical dilemmas An example would be if a vendor wants to give me samples of his product. A lot of organizations will not allow their employees to accept gifts or samples in order to not create a conflict of interest. But it's the leader who is ultimately responsible for creating this ethical culture and for modeling ethical behaviors. Culture rewards ethical behaviors. Cultures that have the right structure set up to create the lines of authority, so we all know who to report to, the lines of accountability, who is responsible to whom, and good cultural reward structures have reporting procedures so that we all know who to report ethical issues to and who to make ethical complaints to.